And good Friday evening, everyone. Welcome to the end of the work week. My name is Francis Tarasiewicz, and of course, I'm up here on the summit of Mount Washington. I'm going to talk a little bit about the weekend forecast, some of the current conditions, and also some of the historic flooding that's essentially ongoing in the New York City area. First, we'll talk about some of the current conditions. Up here on the summit today, it's been quite a calm day, very hazy as well. We still have some of that lingering wildfire smoke from some of those Canadian wildfires, unfortunately, still ongoing. Current wind speed right now, right around 13 miles per hour or so. So nothing we can't handle up here on the summit of Mount Washington, of course. But really the big story for today has been the visibility. We've been bouncing between about 10 and 20 miles of visibility, and that's just due to the thickness of the haze that's been lingering in the White Mountains region for the last couple of days or so. And just sort of some reference here, on a really clear day, we can see out to about 130 miles. So ground-based observatory up here on the summit. This is just a really low view in terms of visibility. And temperatures today have been, as you make your way up the summit here, we've had a bit of what's called a temperature inversion. And so the surface, we've seen actually some cooler temperatures than right around the middle of the summit. And that's kept that layer of haze at or below the summit for most of the day. Again, obscuring that visibility, really locking in all of those particulate matter from those wildfires, keeping that air quality to moderate levels, if not unhealthy at times here during the day. And so we'll take a look now quickly outside here. We'll let our web camera load up here. This is, we switched over to night vision mode. And so here we see some peaks of moonlight through some of the clouds, a little bit of a broken cloud layer developing after a really dreary and overcast day. We can see some distant cities as well there, Berlin. But what this isn't showing right now is the amount of haze. You can sort of vaguely see it there collecting between some of the mountain ranges, but really if we had a better view from the day, it would really show that haze layer pretty much staying, again, as I said, at or below summit level. And so it's been really kind of a murky day up here on the summit, unfortunately. And so I mentioned the historic rainfall in New York City, and so the National Weather Service in New York City, New York, has actually released the following graphic talking about some of the historic rainfall totals. We'll start here with the new daily records. JFK International Airport, 7.97 inches of rainfall today. That's breaking the all-time daily record high for precipitation for the day of September 29th. And of course, Central Park, 5.47, LaGuardia, 4.10, and Bridgeport at 1.72 inches of rain. It's been a really narrow but intense corridor of rain, and a lot of that rain has fallen in just a matter of hours underneath these training thunderstorms, which we'll talk a little bit about. But a couple of other records that have occurred. JFK over the last day or so has seen over 8.5 inches of rainfall, which is comparable to a month's worth of rainfall up here on the summit, of course, home of the world's worst weather. So this is a pretty impressive event here in Manhattan. Over the last day or so, over 6 inches of rain has fallen. We'll go to some of the lower totals, but still impressive. LaGuardia, 4.87 inches of rain. And so this is a very long radar loop, pretty much around midnight last night. You can see a lot of oranges and this has just been all of the heavy rain that is essentially trained over the same area for hours and hours on end. This is a heavy rainfall and some embedded thunderstorms. And if you look closely at this radar image as it sort of nears its end, we'll wait for it to restart. And I want to point something out that's pretty interesting with this event. So these heavy rainfall events depend a lot on atmospheric conversion. That's the moving together of air to allow clouds to rise and, of course, precipitation to fall out of those clouds. You can actually see that on the radar here. You can see these low-level southeasterly winds sort of colliding into this area of heavy rainfall here, and that's that convergence that forecasters looked at, and there was indications of that in our computer models a couple of days ago, and so the National Weather Service did highlight this area for potential for excessive rainfall, and so we did see that indeed occur today. So plenty of convergence, lots of heavy rainfall, and unfortunately lots of flash flooding, especially in the New York City area. Taking a wider look now at the same system, this is taking a look now at the entirety of the country. We've got New England up here, and then of course New York City down here. This is looking at the amount of water vapor in the middle parts of the atmosphere, essentially the amount of moisture. And so these orange and yellow colors indicate drier air, and of course the blue and white colors indicate more in the way of moisture, air that has clouds and moisture associated with it. So you can see this sort of branching structure to this moist layer up here in New England. That shows a lot of divergence as you go up in the atmosphere. So everything is continuous in the atmosphere, of course. If you're coming together and converging in the lower levels, you're going to be diverging and separating air in the upper parts of the atmosphere. And so what we're seeing here is a beautiful sort of fanning out of those clouds, really indicating that strong upper level divergence, which in turn is resulting a lower level convergence, they sort of feed back on each other after a certain point. And so unfortunately, the result has been some extremely heavy rainfall. We'll take a look now at the infrared satellite. And so we can see lots of different darker greens and some oranges. Those indicate higher cloud tops. So again, clouds taking advantage of that divergence, really growing in height and producing all that heavy rainfall. For us up here on the summit, we've had a couple of scattered showers. A lot of the activity has remained well to the south. And so I want to take the next part of the forecast, sort of look at what to expect going ahead. For the higher summits, we'll turn our attention back up here to the North Country. And so right now, of course, we'll take a look at what the forecast models are currently showing. Let me just zoom out a little bit there. All right. And so really no big surprise, of course, New England's here. Lots of green on the map at the moment, according to the North American mesoscale model. And we'll see that green sort of tend to, just get my adjustment here. We'll see those greens tend to wind down overnight and push further south. Still some heavy rainfall possible, unfortunately, right in the New York City area where they don't need it at all. And so we'll advance the clock overnight. We'll see that rain finally start to move somewhat offshore, but again, really well to the south of the higher summits. This is around lunchtime tomorrow. And really the story is going to be that storm slowly pivoting away. Actually, the remnants of what was Tropical Storm Ophelia several days ago, still spinning around. And we'll see that gradually lose influence over the weather pattern. This is now going into Sunday morning. And we have a large area of high pressure, really no precipitation on the map here to speak of going into Sunday. And that trend will continue. So we're not expecting, again, much in the way of rainfall up here on the higher summits, maybe an isolated shower or two in the early part of tonight, Friday night, but really clearing out around midnight or so, and then really winding down, moving into the rest of the weekend. And so we'll take a look now at what we can expect for temperatures going forward. Will it be warming or cooling? And so overnight, of course, cooling a little bit. We've got a bit of a northeasterly breeze that's going to develop as that storm starts to pull away and high pressure builds in. That pressure gradient between the two systems is going to be at work here. And so we'll see temperatures fall as a result. So wind chills tonight will fall into the 30s and 40s, I should say, excuse me there. And so again, brisk northeasterly wind developing overnight. The northeasterly wind will continue into tomorrow, and then really continue to tomorrow night. A much warmer day tomorrow. Temperatures possibly rising back up into the 50s or so. And then tomorrow night, we'll see more of the same, more of that northeasterly. That storm is still just to the south of southern New England. The high pressure is really starting to build in now. We'll see the wind direction actually become more northerly. That's now as that system pulls away in time for later Sunday. The high pressure really starts to build in and filtering in some warm and dry conditions, and hopefully limiting some of that haze and smoke from the wildfires. So with that temperature now, we'll take a look now quickly at speed. Click back here. Sorry, everyone. All right. And so again, I mentioned those converging winds near New York City that produced all that heavy rainfall. Again, those southeasterly winds gradually making their way offshore and becoming more northeasterly, sort of shutting down rainfall for areas of southern New England. But of course, up here, that's going to help to usher in drier air, and it's going to help to push that storm a little bit further south. So overnight winds will be relatively light, the 10 to 20 mile per hour range or so. Moving into tomorrow, we'll see winds increase somewhat, especially during the afternoon as that storm gets going to the south and east, and high pressure builds in overhead. And then moving into the day on Sunday, moving into overnight, again, more of that northerly component. And those winds do get a little bit busier up here on the summit as the high pressure finally starts to really build in. And so now we'll break it down day by day here. The screen wants to work with me there. So again, tonight, it's good. We're going to be gradually becoming in the clear under partly cloudy skies. We can see those breaks of moonlight again on our webcam. We'll see, again, those slight chance of showers early as that storm is sort of at its peak aerial coverage. We'll see some hazy conditions, especially early, as that inversion traps a lot of those particulates right near the summit level. Temperatures will be in the lower 40s. And winds are going to be from the east, again, northeasterly at 5 to 20 miles per hour, increasing 15 to 30 miles per hour. Let's drop those winds between 30 and 40 above zero. Saturday will be in the clear under partly sunny skies. It will be quite hazy, of course. The high pressure is going to tend to lock those particulates from the wildfires, all that smoke and soot near summit level or so. So we'll be talking about hazy skies and poor air quality issues will be a factor, of course, this weekend. If you're sensitive to poor air quality, you might want to Double check your plans if you're visiting the White Mountains and doing any kind of strenuous activity up here with us up on the summits. Temperatures will be around 50 degrees, and winds are going to be from the northeast at 15 to 30 miles per hour. For tomorrow night, more of the same. We'll be in the clear and partly cloudy skies. That haze sort of fall back to near the surface. We'll see temperatures lower down into the lower 40s, and winds will be from the northeast, again shifting northerly as high pressure builds in between 15 and 30 miles per hour. That'll knock the wind chill values down a couple of pegs between 30 and 40 above. And then finally for Sunday, we'll be in the clear under partly cloudy skies. Again, that haze is going to be sticking around, that high pressure as well. It's going to be sort of anchored into place, really moving into the weekend and then perhaps even the first part of the work week. So lots of great weather, but unfortunately, those hazy conditions will exist. And so, again, anyone with the sensitivities to poor air quality might want to double check the air quality forecast. And temperatures will be rising up into the upper 40s. And winds are going to be from the north at 15 to 30 miles per hour, increasing to 25 to 40 miles per hour by the afternoon as those pressure gradients increase. And that was it for this week. Of course, you can always find the updated higher summits forecast at mountwashington.org/forecast. I hope everyone has a wonderful and safe weekend, and thanks for clicking on our broadcast for this evening.